and hunker down for the storm. Because even if she was a little sorry she'd come, it was too late to leave. She had promised Meg to feed the cat and take care of the big Victorian house their great-grandparents had built just after World War II, while Meg and her boyfriend Seth spent time with his grandpa in Pennsylvania between Thanksgiving and Christmas. She'd promised, and she'd never been a very good sister. And she wanted to start being one now. And even if she threw Meg over and hopped the next ferry back to the mainland, where would she go? Back to Chicago? No, she'd left for a reason and had no desire to return to the scene of the crime so soon. Or to her parents' house in Ann Arbor? They'd all gathered there for Thanksgiving just last week, yet through no fault of her family's, she'd suffered the strong desire to be alone. Well, Summer Island in winter was good for alone time, and given that no motor vehicles were permitted on the tiny island near the point where Michigan's upper and lower peninsulas met, she'd at least have the solitude. Maybe she'd curl up in the overstuffed easy chair in the little room they'd always called the Nook and read some of the many books in the house. Maybe she'd meditate by watching the snow silently blanket the lawn and the trees that cocooned the inn. Maybe she'd even get together with Meg's friends here, one of whom, Suzanne Quinlan, had kindly stopped by yesterday to welcome her. And maybe, somehow, through all that, she'd figure out how to start letting go of the doom that had sent her herring away from Chicago as quickly as she could pack a suitcase. Minus a robe, slippers, and parka. And if nothing else, maybe she'd finally get some sleep. Somehow. A large yawn reminded her that sleep had been difficult to come by the last couple of weeks. She'd been sure that would change when she reached the winter solitude of the inn, but no such luck, at least not yet. That was when a loud clank jarred her from her thoughts, followed by an ominous rumbling noise. Her spine went rigid at the grating sounds. What were they from? Some kind of big truck? Heavy machinery? But no, not possible here. This was Summer Island, land of no vehicles. And it was winter. If you discounted some whipping winds, no place could, or should anyway, be quieter. Yet the clanking and rumbling sliced through the otherwise silent snowfall until Lila convinced herself she wasn't hearing things and began trying to track its source. She stalked through the house, peering out windows and startling the calico cat from a bookshelf in the library. "Sorry, Miss Kitty." Across the street, nothing but choppy Lake Michigan and the South Point Lighthouse. To the east, the pastel shops and businesses lining Harbor Street, most of them closed for the season, their roofs all covered with a dusting of snow. Out the west-facing windows of the Nook and sunroom, only the inn's sprawling yard and gardens could be seen, and the thick woods that stretched beyond. Even while all but the evergreens stood bare of foliage just now, the woods to the west marked the spot where quaint Harbor Street narrowed to a wide bicycle trail and gave way to untouched hillsides and shorelines. Rumble, 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 clank, clank, clank. And then a sharp, sudden crack, crash. Was that the sound of falling trees? Heart beating fearfully, Lila rushed to look north out the kitchen window near the back door and saw a bulldozer. A bulldozer! Ripping down the trees across the brook that gave the inn its name. Her heart froze in her chest. How could this be? It can't be. That's all. This can't happen. She couldn't make sense of it, and she wouldn't have believed it if she hadn't seen it with her own eyes. But indeed, a big, yellow bulldozer violently mowed down the woods behind the house as she stared in horror. Every awful cracking noise as another tree broke and fell pierced her like a gunshot to her soul. What the hell was going on? Quit watching. Do something. Without another thought, she shoved through the back door, crossing the snow-covered patio and trudging across the lawn, barely registering the cold and wetness seeping up through the bottoms of the cat-face slippers. Heart pounding like a hammer against her chest, she glanced down at the stream, running a little more heavily than in some seasons. As a kid, she'd picked her way across easily on dry rocks that stuck up above the water. Right now, she spotted only one, and it was risky, but she had to get across that creek now. So, she boldly made the leap, touched down on the flat ridge of the rock, and catapulted her.